Namaskar. This is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to Tit-bits on Business and Finance with me. The finance minister and a top team often talk about visible green shoots of recovery in the economy. While we certainly think that these are exaggerated claims, we think that they are premature. But even if there is some truth in these claims, the fact of the matter is that these so called green shoots of recovery have certainly bypassed India's most crucial sector, which is the MSME segment of the economy. The medium and small scale industries of India are an extremely crucial segment, and it's a giant sector. There are 63.4 million registered MSME units in India according to the government. They contribute to 35% of India's manufacturing output, and they also contribute to 25% of India's service sector output. And because this sector tends to be in labor intensive industries, it's also a giant job generator. But then the fortunes of this sector have been particularly dwindling since the last few years. Their downslide started with demonetization. Demonetization was a body blow to them. And then came a GST, which was a hurried GST, and it again impacted them. And then we have the lockdown. The lockdown has ensured that all the stress that was building up in the earlier years certainly is now there to stay, and it is going to be even more difficult to handle. Closures are taking place, MSME units are getting decimated, they are demising. And while all this is happening, the fact also is there has been no real improvement in their ease of doing business in the country. In fact, their scenario of EODB has only deteriorated, adding to further stress into the sector. This is being further confirmed by a recent report in the Business Standard. The report says that in the past 4 years, the revenues of small scale industries have gone down, and there has been a corresponding increase in the revenues of large scale industries. In other words, the large sector is eating into the domain, into the turf, into the turnover of the small sector. And Business Standard says that this trend is continuing. It confirms that this trend started particularly with demonetization and all the multiple successive hardships that the sector has been facing. And it then says that this sector doesn't have the financial resources, the financial reserves, the financial stamina to be able to withstand the lockdown, and closures are taking place. If closures take place, if units get decimated, then job losses also take place, and certainly NPAs in the sector are rising. This rise in NPAs in the sector is now being confirmed by a report in the Mint very recently. Mint says that there is rising stress in loans to the MSME sector. It says that according to the SBI, it has so far received 35,000 loan proposals from MSME units for restructuring, for recasting their loans. Now that the moratorium is over, they want their loans to be restructured such that they get additional moratorium period, they get additional time to repay their loans so that they are able to pass over the present hardship that they are facing. What the SBI says, even the other public sector banks have been saying, they are confirming that a majority of restructuring cases being received in respect of their loan accounts are from the MSME sector. The MSME sector is in an increasing manner resorting to this option of restructuring of loans. The fact is that unlike the big ones, unlike the big sector, the small sector has not been able to avert a cash flow crisis. And that's been because, as we said, it has faced one calamity after the other right since November 2016, if we have to point out specifically. What the Business Standard report says is further confirmed by Mint also. Mint says that the crisis, the woes of this sector, the struggles of this sector began with effect from demonetization, and they have continued to accelerate thereafter. The Mint report then says that because of the lockdown, the sector today faces an eroded demand. It also faces disruption in the supply chains, because of which turnovers, revenues of the MSME sector have been falling. What is happening in India in the MSME sector is also happening in the EU nations and also in America. In the European Union nations, a report says that 55% of MSME units are likely to close down by September 2021 in case there is no improvement in their revenues, in their sales from what they are at the moment. It's a grim scenario. It is so grim that the report says that 1 out of every 10 MSME units there is closing down, and perhaps they may even go bankrupt in the next 6 months. In the case of USA, the report is that more than half of small units might close down, unable to withstand the COVID crisis. In both these territories, which is the EU and America, the closures, the stress in the MSME sector has been because of not enough or not appropriate support coming from the governments there. These governments in the EU nations and also in America have given fiscal stimulus, they've given financial packages, but these only provide temporary relief. They don't provide a long-lasting solution. And once the financial support is over, once the fiscal stimulus starts fading out, then they are back to square one. Apart from giving fiscal stimulus in these nations, bank credit has been provided. But then what is being seen is that there are not many units who are able to access the banking system, the banking credit. And many of them who are able to access are not eligible for additional bank loans. So even that has not really helped in a big way. America and the EU nations have certainly also not given what we call direct targeted cash relief to the small scale units. And in the absence of that, they are witnessing rising bankruptcies, rising closures, and rising insolvencies in the sector, both in America and in the EU nations. If we come back to India and compare our policies with what the EU and the US did, we find that the very mistakes that the EU nations did and America did is also being committed in India in respect of support being sought to be given to the MSME sector for its revival. In India also, what has been really given is mere a financial stimulus with no direct, targeted, specific relief in financial terms to the stressed MSME sector. The fiscal support that has come has had little direct cash support to the MSME sector. The sector is shaky, and for want of this, it has been shakier even further. The government has left it to the Reserve Bank of India to initiate monetary policy measures, and those measures have certainly not been enough in order to revive the sector, in order to support the sector, and in order to prevent it from succumbing to the hardship that we are facing. And because of that, MSME units in India are all out struggling on their own. What are the policy errors that have been committed in India also? The first one, of course, is monetary policy support has ensured that cash flow is made available to the MSME units, but by way of commercial loans. Commercial loans come with an interest. Commercial loans come with an increasing liability. There have not been many takers for it. If there were not many takers for it, there are also not many who are eligible for it. And that's because the stringent norms that come by way of additional collateral, by way of additional margin money are not met by many. In addition to this situation, the bankers remain credit averse. Bankers are not very keen to lend today, particularly to a sector which is in stress. And because of that, even though the Reserve Bank has been trying to give more credit support from banks to the MSME units, it has not really resulted in any ground level delivery. The fact of the matter is that there has been a negative growth in the total loans to the MSME sector during this period as per a very recent statistic. So the first is cash flow has not really been made available to the sector. Yet another measure which can help is tax relief or tax waivers. By postponing tax payments or by waiving tax payments, it certainly improves the cash flows of this sector, but nothing like that has been done, and they continue to be under tax recovery pressure, only eroding their cash flows further. Yet another measure that helps is some kind of provision of institutional equity infusion in viable MSME units. The purpose is, the object is to ensure that eligible units, viable units, get some kind of a capital from institutional sources which does not come with any debt servicing kind of obligations. That really strengthens their cash flows. But there is no such system in India, and thus the sector continues to reel. No direct cash support has been provided to the sector by the government in any form in order to ensure that it stays afloat. So we have yet another policy gap that takes place. And because of this, each one continues to battle his crisis on his own with nothing tangible available from institutional and from government sources. The reality is, when we look at this, what some say turns out to be true. And what do those some say? Some experts say that the recovery, if any, that we are witnessing in India is a K-shaped recovery. A K-shaped recovery where it is an upward trajectory for the big units and it is a downward trajectory for the small units. The small units continue to struggle, and watch it. There's going to be a massive build-up in NPAs in the MSME sector in the coming quarters, and that's going to give another body blow to the banks and to the lenders. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.
If you like this video, please share it, and we would love to hear your comments in the comments section down here. Also, please do like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter to get minute-to-minute news updates. For more such shows and videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel.